Unfortunately, the content creators on the internet, what their goal is to sell advertising on their content. And so these make great pieces of content to build profiles and videos and things around and get people to subscribe and get excited about. But the reality is you can spend years looking for that unicorn.
Welcome to Entrepreneurship Through Franchising, a show about kicking down your cubicle wall with ETF and getting honest insights from the experts who guide aspiring entrepreneurs just like you every single day. And on this episode, we're joined by my friend and fellow Oklahoman, John Anderson. So everybody, we have John Anderson with us. And John and I met a few years ago. He has been really awesome at helping us develop as a franchisor and helping us get connected with some really great franchisees. And so I just want to welcome John. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Yeah, of course, man. And I got the opportunity to be on John's YouTube channel podcast. And so we'll make sure to put a link for that video in the description. He's got some great interviews with some great brands there. But John, before we talk about all your experience as somebody who helps people in franchising as a franchise consultant, I'm always curious, like what gets people into franchising? I know I have my own story, but let's go back. Like, where does your entrepreneurial journey begin? Were you always an entrepreneur? Is it something that you woke up one day and decided to do? Let's take us back, man.
So I'm going to tell the story because it's interesting. It's not one that I get into a lot because it was a little bit of start and stop and then restart again. But I'm going to go all the way back to, and I even forget if it was my sophomore or junior year in college. I think it was my sophomore year. I went to USC in Los Angeles, and I'm going across the courtyard in between classes one day, and there is a table about starting a business. It was probably nicer than that. But anyway, I go talk to the guy and get kind of interested in it. The bottom line is, without getting into all the gory details, it's called Student Painters.
Okay.
And of course their pitch was, well, you're not painting, you're running a business. And this is for, people in the business school, which at that point I was transferring out of engineering and into the business school. So I was always wanting to, tried to start a lawn care business in high school and things like that. So it was always in my blood. So I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it. So all my friends for spring break are going to Mazatlan, all my fraternity brothers, and I end up staying and going down to Irvine for training. I spent a week in training to learn how to start a business. So that summer I actually ended up with a used station wagon that I got. I got all the ladders, the equipment, hired people, my fraternity brothers. I ran painting crews all summer, and this was 1987. I made $3,500 or something over the summer, which doesn't sound like much money now, but it was a lot for 19-year-old kid. And so I was successful with it. They ended up having me back to be a district manager the following year, which actually was a paid position. But that was my first foray into, and it was legally a franchise. It was a very short franchise agreement. And I don't even think I knew back then what I was doing. All I knew was, hey, we're signing on and let's go. And so I did do, that was long time ago. And then after school, this was the Michael Milken era. I was, go. I went to New York and interviewed, ended up getting a bond trader position in Orange County. Was not very good at that, and quickly found my way into mortgage sales. And I was a mortgage loan officer for about 16 years. And then we moved here back home to Oklahoma, which, for those of you who don't know the whole story, obviously, Ty, you're just, I don't want to say down the street, but 100 miles away, right, in the city, as we call it. And I'm in Tulsa, and that's where I grew up and where my family is. So we decided to raise the kids somewhere else, retire from mortgages. We moved here. Now what? This is really where I normally start with my franchise history.
Yeah,
so you got the extended cut with my student painters experience. So then it's like, all right, I always wanted to start a business. Being a loan officer, I kind of was. I was 100% commission, but it wasn't exactly on my own. I worked for somebody. So this was my shot. We had some money that we had made back there. Mortgage business was good to us. We sold a California house. That was good to us.
Mm-hmm.
So now what? Well, you know, even in 2006, you start clicking at stuff online and a bunch of consultants call you.
Okay.
So I found a franchise and we opened in 2007. And I worked with a guy like myself. In fact, he's still in the business. I still get his emails. And the brand is Bounce You. It's children's entertainment. We had young triplets at the time, which is a whole nother conversation. But, so we moved here. They were starting, I believe it was second grade. We'd had parties at facilities like this in California. And, it's 10,000 square feet, 2 huge stadium rooms, the inflatables. This was pre-trampolines. The trampolines weren't even a thing yet. And, we still own it. So it's, 2026. We're coming up on 19 years as of July 5th. And outside of the COVID years, it's been a pretty good business for us.
Yeah. So I think I've had my kids at one of these types of things. It's like these just big kind of warehouse spaces, and you got the blow up inflatable stuff all around, and you book a birthday party or just go there on a Saturday afternoon and hang out. So you've had that for the last how long?
So, it was 2007. So 19 years on July 5th. Yep.
19 years, July 5th, coming up on that anniversary. And you worked with a consultant to find it. So John, when when you were considering that transition, how did you were you just searching? What were you looking for on the internet? I mean, back in 2006, what were you looking for on the internet? Were you looking to were you searching franchising? Were you searching buying? What was it that you were looking for?
Back then, I didn't know. I mean, I was like, I just want to start.
I think that's how a lot of us feel, right?
Right. So back then it was, you fill out some form and I didn't get a lot of phone calls. I'd just get packages in the mail and they'd be this thick of what used to be called the UFOC, Uniform Franchise Offering Circular.
Okay.
And that was the predecessor to what we now know as the FDD, the Franchise Disclosure Document. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember the, GNC, I remember Baskin Robbins, like most people, right? You click on where you go as a customer. You click on big names, but they were way more money than I wanted to spend. And
sure.
And they were a lot more complicated than I think I wanted to do. So somewhere in there, I clicked on something and ended up having several people call me, and I started working with, we'll just say his name is Jim and leave it at
Jim. That. Okay. All right. Well, I think today, I think about a lot of men and women, somewhere around my age these days, I think guessing kind of age difference. I think, we're around where you were at back in 2006, and we kind of having those same experiences where, you've done okay. And you may have some equity in the house. You may be selling and moving someplace to the interior where life's a little bit more affordable, especially if you got one of those coastal houses. We see a lot of that here. And so you're sitting there and you're thinking about what's next. And you think, a lot of the people I talk to, I'm like, I got a family. I want to do something. I don't want to go back to work like I have before. And you start thinking about what's next. John, you probably talk to way more people than I do, but so many people I talk to, the big buzzwords right now are like, buy a boring business. People talk about the gray tsunami, all those 65 and 70-year-olds that are selling their business. And there's a lot of language around like, hey, go buy one of these types of businesses. Is that somebody, do you hear from, is that something you talk to a lot when you're talking to candidates right now?
That mindset, well, let me back up. It's not a bad mindset.
Sure.
But it's really a great way to sell books and webinars and or even seminars. But it's, unfortunately, like many books, webinars, and seminars, it's the needle in the haystack. It's the unicorn, right? I mean, if you can find a fairly priced business that the owner needs to exit for no reason of the business, personal reasons, medical or whatever, and it's profitable and you can write a check and walk right into cash flow and have something that's still scalable, why wouldn't you?
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But how hard that is to find. I know how hard that is to find. Unfortunately, the content creators on the internet, what their goal is to sell advertising on their content.
Sure.
And so these make great pieces of content to build profiles and videos and things around and get people to subscribe and get excited about. But the reality is you can spend years looking for that unicorn.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I'm sorry, I'm very long-winded here sometimes, but that is absolutely a conversation I have all the time. And a lot of people have fallen into that. And a lot of times, I'll have these conversations. They stay in my database. We stay in touch. 6 months later, they're like, John, I still haven't found. I said, yeah, I told you you're looking for a unicorn. And,
Yeah.
what you're going to find is a bunch of deeply discounted businesses that aren't making any money and you're taking over somebody's problems, or you're going to find a lot of really expensive where you're buying cash flow, but it costs a lot of money that most people don't have. Right.
Yeah. And I've talked to a few people about this, and, when you have a business that's been opened up for any period of time, whether it's profitable or not, I can tell you, and John, you probably know this because you're a business owner, I get emails every single day, multiple times a week. Like it happens all the time of just fishing for, am I interested in selling my business? I'll get the calls, I get the emails. The private equity that is in these spaces there's so much of it. And so if you're just a guy like I am and you're just kind of looking around, if it's a unicorn, somebody with probably significantly bigger pockets that moves faster and has more data points than I do has probably already made that phone call and made that connection and going to make that offer that I can't make. And then if I live in a smaller area, right, and it doesn't have to be very small. I don't think Oklahoma City or Tulsa are small, but it's few and far between opportunities around here, right? Like, so I think if you wanted to move, if you could just kind of look across the map and say, here are all the places I'm willing to relocate my family. But I think a lot of folks like you and me, John, like I'm not at a position right now where you didn't want to move with your triplets. I don't want to move with my twins. Yeah. I want to build a business where I'm at. And I don't know, John, if I've ever shared this with you. I did buy a business one time.
Yeah.
In my journey, I was trying to scale my original company that I started. It was a historic preservation contracting company. And I bought a wood shop. I bought all the tools and all the stuff. And I definitely bought problems. I thought I was buying contracts. I thought I was buying a lot of things. And I bought a lot of problems that didn't come out during the conversation, didn't come out in the disclosures. And to be fair, I didn't have a good guide walking me through it. I was just trying to do this all myself. And I think that's why the value of folks, men and women that do what you do. So let's talk about that really quick, because whether it's a franchise or buying a business in general, there's so many opportunities out there. It's really great to have kind of someone walk you through the process. Can you just describe a little bit about what you do and what typically a franchise consultant or broker does?
Yeah, well, so there's some good training and some not so good training out there. There's some brokers that operate effectively and ethically, and others that just want to throw stuff against the wall. And
sure,
I don't mean that to disparage anybody, but it's just the truth. And there are some really, really good, really professional people. I like to think I'm in that mix, who start off from day one in that first conversation with somebody with their best interests in mind. In many cases, that means telling somebody, franchising or even starting a business may not be for you. Maybe it's not for you today because, what I am is, I'm part educator, some days part therapist, some days part bartender. I mean, you're looking at something, most people I talk to have no experience prior and have always wanted to own a business. I've always thought about franchising. And of course, the conversation is a little different if you get somebody with some experience, but usually it's somebody, you're taking them from ground zero to something that could be, after kids and a spouse, maybe the first home, the biggest decision they'll ever make, right? Because you're talking about not just investment financially, time and energy. A lot of people don't think about, you are starting a business. Yeah, you're plugging into a business plan that a franchise gives you and all the training, but there's still going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into especially that first year. And you have to be mentally ready for that. And somebody needs to tell them early on, hey, this is what you're signing up for.
Hmm.
And so that's part of the process. But, to boil it down to what I do, I meet people that want to learn about franchising and I educate them and help them find a franchise or multiple often franchises to consider that fit what's their background, what are their experiences, where do they want to be in 5 to 10 years, and those financial goals, and of course financial constraints. If somebody says I only have 25 grand, that limits a lot of our
Right.
options.
Right.
If they have more money to work with, we've got more options. That doesn't mean they're better options all the time, but there are more.
Sure.
And so, yeah, so I'm taking them from, that I know nothing stage to, hey, here's some things that fit you.
Yeah.
And then from that stage to I hold their hand as they go through discovery or due diligence, whatever term you want to label, research.
Hey, I want to take a break real quick from this episode and tell you about something I've been working on for a long time. My first book, brand new, called Damn It Feels Good, Knock Down the Cubicle Walls of Your Life with the Built Together Business. This is 5 years of lessons and learning about what it takes to build a franchise system that's more than just a franchise system, but it's really a business that values the mission with local ownership. This big idea of serving people, serving our neighbors, while having it done at the local level. It's our principles, it's our values of franchising, and it's all packed in this book. Is a pretty easy read, just over 100 pages, and it's got a ton of stories of real franchisees who are becoming entrepreneurs through franchising. I want to encourage you to grab a copy of it. The link will be in the description below. Now, back to our interview. John, I want to come back to something before we talk about different types of brands and ways that you coach them through the selection process. But one thing you said is before we even kind of get to selection, we need to talk about, are you ready? And of course, obviously there's the financial component of being ready. And that is probably the biggest one. Time and money are the biggest two things that you really need to assess. But obviously the money's the easy one to really kind of get clarity on. When you look outside of the money one, which is pretty obvious, and you look at the other ones, what are some of the things that you see where you're going to give somebody that guidance that maybe you're not a good fit, or maybe even now's not the right time?
Well, there's a couple different. So the first one, which is something we don't think about often in our world, is they're too entrepreneurial, right? They can't play in a franchise's box. And I have that conversation with people. I'm like, you know what? I don't know that a franchise is for you. You're never going to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's one. I think where you may be going is the other one, which is timing. For a lot of people, there's the skill set and the mental fortitude, the ability to say, I'm going to do this and be successful at it, whatever it takes. I go all the way back to that student painter's business when I was 19 years old, and that was something that we talked about a lot, like whatever it takes. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I remember, not to backtrack too much, but I remember Friday afternoon, I didn't have a job on Monday for one of my crews. My girlfriend and I were out cold calling in South Pasadena until 8 o'clock at night. We convinced a woman with a huge house to let us get started on Monday. So, I mean, that kind of attitude is whatever it takes to be successful, and I'm prepared to do that. And not everybody's got that, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with even, going through our process. Some of them have talked to you and ultimately deciding they're more comfortable with the job. Part B to that is maybe they're the right temperament, the right mentality, but just the timing isn't right. The timing has to be right too.
Yeah.
And that could be anything from, they just have a great job right now. They need to save a little bit more. It could be babies on the way or a new baby at home. It could be whatever it is. There's something that just says, hey, now is not the right time. And I like to give people permission in the very first conversation. Look, that's okay. I mean, I can almost go back through any period of the 10 years I've been doing this and say, I just had a deal get signed with somebody I started talking to 2.5 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Those happen a couple of times a year. Because you have to give them permission. Hey, let's do the education now, but the time may not be right to do the
Right.
deal.
Right. I think it's really important, the component of doing whatever it takes. I think that's such a critical thing about being a business owner is that, ideally a business has employees. So you have these responsibilities to your employees, to your creditors, to your vendors, to everybody. And to, like you said, like whether it's a painting crew or a kids entertainment, like you got to get out there and make sure you've got people coming in the door or signing the contracts or doing the work. And that is I've been around entrepreneurs. My grandfather's an entrepreneur, my dad. I've mentored and coached others in the home service space and now as a franchisor. And that is usually the big, other than money, other than capital issues, the biggest thing is like, will you get out there and do what it takes? And people can call it bootstrapping, but that's really what it is will you do whatever? And like you said, are you willing to go out and put flyers in parking lots, hang door hangers in neighborhoods, show up? Like, are you willing to do those things? I don't think you have to have any special gift of gab. I've seen people be successful that are amazing salespeople and would be offended if you called them a salesperson. But if they've got that can-do attitude, right?
That's it.
That's where a lot of success lies, regardless of franchising or not. That's because the systems can't make you get up in the morning and go do it.
That's right. It's interesting too, because you frame that for people and they look at you and go, this sounds awful. Why would I do this?
Yeah.
My response is, well, you need to think about that, because I believe if you get into, I really believe there's a franchise for everybody. There's 4,000 of them, right? There's one that fits everybody. So I really believe if you find the right one that fits your skill sets, your experience and your goals, and gives you that tailwind that, you're willing to plug in and do the activities, you'll be successful. So what you have to figure out is, all right, I don't have to be whatever it takes for 20 years and sell the business. I have to do that for 12 months in most cases.
That's right.
So, it's like you got to be prepared for, and it's like anything that is worth working for, it does make those good times that much sweeter too. When you get a couple years down the road and you have that lifestyle that you see on TV of entrepreneurs, they don't show you the first year or two that the grind, right? So.
No, that's not. And I often, when people are going through our process, I'm like, hey, listen, fortunately for us, we're new. I'm like, you're going to talk to a lot of people who just went through their first year and ask them a lot of questions because I want to make sure you're ready. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, I'm looking for something. I'm trying to reduce the amount of time I'm working, 20 to 30 hours. And I'm like, hey, that sounds really exciting. That's a goal I have for you. It will not be what year one looks like. You will work more in year one than you currently work at your job. Like, that's just how this thing is going to work. But then you do it right. You lay the right foundations. You follow the system. Then you can start to see that quality of life. I was like, the good news in it is I do control what 50 hours or 60 hours a week I want to work. That's the control I have. And so I can wake up early and I will here shortly, as soon as we finish this, I'm going to go do a clap out for my daughter because she's, doing bridging from the 8th grade to the 9th grade. So I'm going to do that in the middle of the day, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to work till later tonight because I got a lot on my plate. I have full control over that. That is what's important to me in entrepreneurship. I love working. I just love being able to work when I want to work. It's not the hours, it's the when. John, let's switch gears here a little bit. And, you walk people through, you're walking people through brands. And I'm sure you have some that you like and some that you show more often than others. So let's talk about, like, you're looking across, I think the organization you're in has 700,000, like a lot, more than anybody ever needs to see. And you're going to try to boil this down to 5 based off maybe 5, maybe 4. You can let me know of like the ones that best fit the candidate that you're talking to. Outside of like the fit connection, what is it when you're looking at these brands that say, hey, I've checked into these. What are you looking for in brands that you've checked into before you show them to somebody?
Wow. There's a lot of different answers to that. I think one thing I struggle with is sometimes this goes through my personal filter and not always the filter of the candidate I'm talking to. And what I mean specifically by that is I can look at somebody and say, you know what, talk to Ty and April because they're good people and they're going to take care of you and they are going to be there to help you. And I mean, I don't know if there's 100, there's probably 100 brands that I could say the same thing about, but there's 3,900 that aren't. And either they are, in most cases, and this is the situation that I personally gravitate to is, can I work directly with the founder or the leadership team? Are they personable? Do I feel like they have the best interests of me as the franchisee in mind? Are they going to be, if I have a problem, can I pick up the phone and call the
Mm-hmm.
president or CEO or the founder? And so that's where my mind goes with 90% of my candidates. And so where I say that's my filter is there are some folks who maybe they want something really regimented. They want to work with a 50-year-old brand that's owned by private equity or Wall Street that has 10 layers of management. That's
Okay.
just what there are old brands, that have been around a long time that fit that. And some of them are still decent brands to work with. There are just some people that's what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But
I can see that. I think if, and you probably know more than I do about this, but it depends on what I'm trying to do with my money. If I want something safe, like probably it is safer to get in something, maybe even a resell or something that's really established. And if it's still available in my market, go with one of those big folks. I mean, like you said, they got 10 layers and they got all the things figured out, and you just kind of do, and some of those, maybe you can put managers in place a little bit easier because it's very clear. But then probably if you're wanting to like really get into the business and build it, where having that direct connection with the founder or CEO or leadership team is important. I mean, a lot of people that I talk to, that's what is important to them is that connection, and I understand that. I think that's what I would want, and that maybe is why that's what you should. I don't know if that's what you would want, but that's what I would want. I'd want to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, "Hey, you're the guy that started it all, or tell me what I need to do."
yeah, and I think a lot of times people get. I mean, the numbers are important. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of times people get too focused on the numbers, and they don't get really focused on what do I have to do every day to be successful? What do I have to, and who's going to be there to support me with it? And, what happens when I have a challenge or a problem? And those are important questions to ask as you go through this process. If you find that unicorn of a resale and it's in a sandwich business and you get excited about it up until the point you realize you have to be there at 5:30 every morning to meet the delivery truck, bringing supplies in, and you've got to manage these labor costs that could at any given moment with a stroke of a pen go from you know $7.50 an hour to $15 an hour in our case, or in some states they're California is paying food workers $25 an hour already.
Right.
So
Right.
that kind of stuff can happen, and I think you have to think about all that and be able to lean on people to support you properly, not just take things that face value like that. So,
Yeah, John, I hear a lot of people, and I get a lot of questions, and it comes up during when I'm talking to people. I don't tell people about preserving, but that people sometimes want to keep their job, and they want to have a semi-absentee business, maybe for supplemental income or kind of lifestyle type things. And there's a lot of I feel like good and bad information about that. Like there's some things where it's like it feels like it's not realistic, but then again, I hear some stories of there are some things where semi-absentee ownership is possible. Like I say, you see hundreds of brands and you recommend those. Do you have any brands that truly are as close to semi-absentee as possible that you recommend, or do you feel like everything you got to go all in?
so I think that, and I'm going to generalize here a little bit. I think our industry does our potential franchise owners a great disservice with the marketing around passive, semi-passive,
Mhm.
semi-absentee, semi-active. I mean, I've heard all kinds of euphemisms for it. Can it be done? Yes. Are there certain models that are more conducive to it? Yes. Are you going to have better results if you, you know, create a legitimate plan, figure out how to fund your life for 12 months, go all in, roll up your sleeves and go do it, do whatever it takes to make sure you get there. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, not everybody's in a position to do that. And that may go back to the timing thing. Hey, maybe it's better for us to reconnect in 12 months. And let's see where your life is at 12 months and see if you're in a better position to that. Let's talk about how we might fund that, right? In terms of if you were to quit now and go all in. Or maybe you can keep your job, but your wife can quit hers and go all in, or vice
Okay.
versa. You know,
Yeah.
maybe there's a way where there, you know, that's actually not a bad plan to have one income still coming in and one person, you know, really focused on the business. Now, there's a few, I don't know, I'd say probably the beauty space is the most common model where, you know, it's designed for you not to be there. But
Sure. I can see that. Yeah.
even there, you know, if you're not there paying attention to it at least 10 or 15 hours a week, it's probably not going to do well.
Right.
But the other, I guess the other place you see things are, I get all the time. "Well, you got a car wash or a mini storage," or I said, "I do. Do you have $4 million?"
Right. Right. Yeah.
There are franchises for that, and they are pretty semi-absentee, but you got to have a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. So when when it's kind of a real estate based thing, like
Right.
a car wash, or like, yeah, you don't need to quit your job to be the guy that stands at the car wash and hands people the towel and tells them to line up their tires just right. You don't need to do that. You just need to go in and. But to your point, that's a significantly larger investment. And I've got some friends that have franchises in the kind of in the like weekend entertainment space, I would call it, like where it's
Yeah.
like, the dessert truck type thing, or the bouncy house blow up at their house kind of
Mhm.
weekend set up for birthday party thing. And those seem like, supplemental, but when you're looking like, I think you got to have it seems like they're way up here as far as
Yep.
an investment level, or they're down here as far as a potential return on investment level.
Well, like vending machines is another one. I mean,
Absolutely.
you can get
Absolutely.
started. You can get started with a fairly low investment, fairly low hours, but you're also getting a fairly low return. I mean, it's
Sure.
just at the end of the day, you've got how much money do you put in? How much time do you put in? And those two things are going to factor into how much you can make. And if you're not putting a lot of time in, you're probably not going to, it's going to lower that. It's a math equation, right? You're going to lower one or the other, whether how much you put in financially or how much time you put in, your result is going to go down. It's just, X times Y equals Z. And if X or Y goes down, Z's got to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I imagine, as your candidates are going through this process, one, I am sure you're showing them brands, like you said, like your personal opinions are coming into this, and you're showing them brands where you feel like there's going to be a lot of trust connection between the people talking to them and the people and them are going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be a lot of transparency, and I'm sure that that's the process that most of the brands you recommend are following. However, my guess is that some folks listening to this are thinking to themselves, I don't want to mess with this whole broker thing. It sounds like a salesperson. And I just want to go get on the internet and reach out to this one thing that I heard was really popular from Entrepreneur Magazine or driving down the
Right.
street. And so I'm going to do it myself. Okay. What kind of advice would you give both to your candidates and to this person who's thinking of DIYing this process when they're starting to talk to the development team? What are some of the things they should be looking out for that are kind of red flags to slow down the process? Obviously, these are things that you walk your candidate through, but what are some of the red flags that they should be watching out for?
Well, first, I'll give you a shameless plug for my book. It's Be the CEO of Your Life, written
Yep.
by John Anderson. It's on Amazon, or you can email me for a free PDF. And it's written in a DIY format. It's exactly there. Like, here's the roadmap if you want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how to do some self-analysis without me helping you. But here's how to, find brands that fit your skill set and your finances and everything without me helping you. I think it's important for even the most skeptical person out there to know that we work like executive recruiters. There's no fee for
Hmm.
what we do,
That's
which
right.
means we spend a lot of time working with people that we never get paid for. That's just part of what we do. It's okay. I knew that coming in, and I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I support it. And full disclosure, the franchises, like Ty, pay us for people that close a portion of their fees. But for that person out there, I would say, you know what, be really careful, because there's a lot of things out there that look like you're clicking on Jimmy John's, and what you're really doing is clicking on an information portal
Hmm.
that says information on Jimmy John's. And what it does is it then feeds your personal information to 10 different consultants like me. And you then get, within about an hour, 10 text messages, 10 phone calls, and 10 emails if their systems are all set up right. I know if you come to me, they are. And that's not what you're looking for. I think that there are advantages to finding somebody. In my book, I talk about it, find your mentor. Whoever that is, coach, consultant, whatever you want to call them. I use the word mentor in the book. Find somebody who's an independent third party who's going to be able to give you some advice, who's been there, who's ideally who's owned their own franchises, and can walk you through and do it in a way that, you feel like they're looking out for you. Again, because not, my plan is not to stick you with, hey, here's 4 or 5 franchises that are going to pay me the most, so go talk to them. And that can happen. But yeah, no, I would encourage them to certainly do your homework online. There's a ton of
Yeah.
research out there they can do, but it's also very easy to get overwhelmed. It's very easy to get confused. Um, you know, I'm on LinkedIn all the time because I think that's a good place for you to find people. Go to LinkedIn. Maybe what's the term I'm looking for? Just kind of follow people without really engaging to get a feel for who they are. Go to some videos. I've got my own YouTube page. Most consultants will have something like that where you can get a feel for who they are, and then pick a couple that you think, hey, these people might speak to me, and have a conversation, because you're going to get a lot farther that way than just clicking and filling out forms online.
I think that's really great advice. And John, last piece of advice I'll ask that you could share with everybody as you're going through this process, whether you're working with an awesome consultant like John, or maybe not a great consultant, or maybe you're doing it yourself. What is the single most important thing for them to review or do when they're in that discovery or due diligence? What is the single most important thing they can do?
Wow. That's putting me on the spot to pick one thing out of the whole process. I really think that the most important thing you can do is to figure out, and this is not going to happen in one conversation, but to figure out what are the successful people in a particular brand, the successful franchise operators. What do they do every day? What do they do when they wake up? What's the first agenda item of the day? What do they do throughout the day? What do they do before they go to bed? What do they do every week? Why are they successful? And then, am I prepared to do that? Am I going to like doing that? Is that for me? Do I have the skill set for that? Because that single piece, if you can make that connection, will do more for your success as a business owner than any of the financial stuff you can read, or all of the things that are very important, but maybe in my mind come second.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. You've got to pick up the phone and get connected with the top performers in the organization. And like you said, you got to ask them, and what are you doing? And then, to your point, make sure that you're willing to do that to reach that level of success. John, it's been great. I appreciate you kind of sharing us the deep track of your first foray into franchising. It's really great, and definitely something that's painted a lot of houses. I can totally understand. John, if somebody is listening to this and they're thinking, this is the kind of guy I want to mentor me through this process, what is the best way for them to get connected with you?
So that franchise guy, thatfranchiseguy.com, LinkedIn, / that franchise guy. The only difference is on YouTube, it's that franchise guy. John, if you don't add John on there, you get some NFL football guy. Yeah, unfortunately, being John Anderson, you can't seek me out that way very well. But that franchise guy is pretty easy to find.
That franchise guy, and we'll leave some contact information from John in the description here. Maybe even get a link for his to get connected with him. John, I really want to appreciate you taking your time out today and sharing your experience and your background with our audience here. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for listening to the episode today and joining John and I as we kind of break down franchising for you. If you found value out of this conversation, I want to encourage you to subscribe and hit the little bell so you get the notifications. If you're watching this or listening to this somewhere else, please follow along. And here's what I want to encourage you to do. If you want to learn more about franchising, I just want you to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. Just search Ty McBride and you'll find me there. Later.